Hello and welcome to Murder Dictionary Podcast. My name is Brianna and that is Courtney.
Hi.
So before we get into the case that we're talking about tonight, we always want to remind you of what's in our description every week. You can always find links to some of the resources that we use to research every story. So if you want to read a little bit more, look into some of the articles, you can get the links there. If you wanted to follow us on social media, we've got links to our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So definitely follow us because we've got updates on the new episodes. We've got memes. We've got true crime news, a bunch of stuff. Check it out.
Check it out. There's a lot of news.
A lot. You're really good with news. I'm not as good with it.
I am really good with news.
But I am like the meme queen on the other hand.
So
we complement each other on that.
Hand in hand.
It's perfect. Yin and yang over here. And we also have links in our description for our Patreon and our Threadless. So our Patreon is at patreon.com/murderdictionarypodcast. And on there, you can get access to bonus episodes and also some small little merch items. So if you want to join, again, check out patreon.com/murderdictionarypodcast. And if you wanted some larger items, we've got shirts and sweaters and towels and a bunch of stuff like that. You can go to Threadless, which is murderdictionary.threadless.com. So we also have a few new people on our Patreon. So we wanted to say thank you to Samantha and Elliot.
Thank you.
Thanks, you guys. So with all that said, we can get started on our very last letter G gamer.
You can finally sleep tonight.
It's over. After this, it's done.
Every kid I see, I'm like, are you going to kill me? Are you going to kill me? Are you the one that's going to... Every 5 days in the United States, a child kills their parents. Are you the one that's going to kill your parents, little Tommy?
Courtney's in full terror mode at this point.
Extreme terror. Except I think
threat level red.
Threat level midnight. It's beyond. But, you know, they're not all killers.
Well, that's the thing. It's like the important thing to point out is that there is no correlation directly that point A is video games, point B is murder.
That's just in my head.
It's not true. It's only happening in Courtney's brain.
It's not
so let's
true,
just clarify that.
You're going to get so many angry people again. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's just, we have definitely some studies and some psychology that we talked about before that there are some negative effects to people who may be already susceptible, but in every case, there's underlying factors. And that's kind of the moral of the story of the case we're talking about tonight, is there's always this underlying issue. And oftentimes it's just not noticed or undiagnosed or whatever it is. But, in the first story that we talked about, there was extreme trauma and neglect leading up to the violence. In the second one, of course, addiction, and social isolation, and definitely strict parenting that caused this sort of rebellion. But tonight, we're talking about one where there's some mental illness that was underlying. So there's always just another factor. It's okay, Court.
Not every person that plays video games is a killer, right? But
right.
Most of these killers play video games.
No.
That's what I'm finding.
That
However,
is only in our gaming episodes.
I'm being told I'm wrong, and that's fine. And paranoia is an unfounded fear, right? So I think I'm paranoid because I know, it's not, but still.
I get it.
It's just because I don't play them.
And I understand
that's
why that's scary.
Yeah.
I totally get it, I guess maybe, I don't know. I've played them. I've come in contact with some, pretty mean 13-year-olds, but I'm like, not really scared,
So basically, everyone, if you come across me in real life, just assume we don't play the games and we just don't get it.
Right.
Right? We just don't get it. And that's okay.
Right.
And we don't care to get it. But please don't let your kids kill me. Take their
All that
games.
said, it's okay to have different opinions. It's okay to have, different points of view or different hobbies. But also, don't let Courtney get murdered.
I might have to start playing some of these.
Just understand.
Yeah.
It's fun. I'm just saying. I love
What should I
video
play?
games.
To start down this trial.
I don't know.
I don't either.
I don't
Everyone
really
tell me
know.
what to play. Because
we'll take your suggestions.
Totally. I'll take them. The group, send us a message, post it. Let me know. What do I need to play to understand?
What can Courtney not live without playing?
Caveman Olympics was like my favorite thing when I was a kid.
Mike Tyson's boxing.
Play a lot of slots. So you can take that into account.
I actually, in real life, play a shit ton of pinball. That's one of my hobbies. Like, I go look for pinball places all the time.
Are you a pinball wizard?
I really, really enjoy it.
Play mean pinball.
So, now that I'm thinking about it, one of the places that I'm going pretty soon is the Pinball Hall of Fame, which is in Las Vegas. And that leads me to the point that we're actually going to be not releasing a couple episodes in May. So there's going to be a couple weeks that we miss. I will be on vacation. I'll be in Las Vegas for what Courtney thinks is a very long time.
Yeah, I do.
But I will be playing a lot of pinball.
I just want you to come back because I know you in that town.
I'll be back. I promise.
Better be back.
Yeah. So we'll be gone for a couple weeks, but then we're going to come back. So, let's talk about a gamer.
Let's do it.
So this week we are talking about Nathon Brooks, who was a 14-year-old who was living with his parents, Jonathan and Elizabeth, and a younger sister in Moses Lake, Washington. He grew up with religious parents who were extremely involved in their son's life and maybe a bit on the strict side. But I don't think that they were to the level of the parents we saw in last week's episode.
And this is kind of another one of like, you've done everything right.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, they were, usually we see like neglect or abuse or something like that leading up to something, but they were pretty involved. And if there was any fault there, it was just that they were a little bit overbearing, but they were trying to do right by their kid, guide him in the right direction.
That's what I picked up.
He attended Moses Lake Christian Academy and was regularly seen in the neighborhood playing basketball. Really, by all accounts, he was fairly popular and kind of a bit of a jock.
Yeah, I read the same. I mean, normal kid, like normal is all relative, but normal for Moses Lake, Washington.
Right. And maybe just his thing with sports,
Yeah.
He also played video games. In his own words, he played them 24/7 or until his parents confiscated them. So it sounds like that happened pretty often.
Yeah, he'd probably get on a good one and then they'd be like, hey, you've been playing too long. Take those away.
Knock it off. He actually decided by himself to quit playing violent video games at one point because he thought that they were making him have more violent thoughts, which is interesting that he self-regulated in that way at such a young age.
Yeah, very much so.
And it's very self-aware that he would even notice that that was happening. Not, beyond just stopping it, he noticed it even in the first place, which is kind of a big deal for a young boy,
I thought the same.
Although he wasn't violent, he did test his parents' boundaries in various ways, like most normal teenagers do. Recently, he had stolen a credit card from his parents, and he'd gotten a string of tardies at school that actually caused Nathon to get sent to detention.
I feel like that stolen credit card thing.
It's a pretty big deal.
That's a pretty big deal.
I can't imagine stealing my parents' credit card.
Still to this day. Okay. Not a chance. Like,
no way
way
in hell. Yeah,
no
as
way.
an adult. I wouldn't even be like, hey, can I borrow this real quick?
I wouldn't even want to ask. And I know that they would give it to me.
Right.
I mean, it's not that. But
like, hey, I have an emergency or something.
Exactly. I don't even want to ask. I mean, that just, but you're young, whatever, you're stupid, but.
Yeah, but that's pretty ballsy.
I agree, especially for a kid going to Christian school.
Yeah.
That, sure, some of them are worse than others, but he's already knowing that he's got violent thoughts happening and he's going to take his parents' credit card. He's feeling the boundaries.
Yeah, not only that, though, but I think that he's testing the boundaries in a way that's kind of an extreme violation.
Very extreme.
It may not be violent or whatnot, but it's a theft,
It's
even
theft,
if it's within his household. you know? So, of course, this led to a lot of tension between his parents. And in an argument with his mother, she actually told him that he was, quote, meeting the definition of insanity by disobeying them over and over and then expecting them not to get angry with him.
That to me, because he mentions that a couple times when he's discussing this later. And I think that for someone who's already like, I'm having violent thoughts, oh my gosh. And then your mother, and she's just using what is that called? Oh my God.
Just like an old saying or
She's just using a phrase. We'll call it a phrase, okay? And this phrase to him implies he's crazy. And I'm wondering if coming from his mom, it's a fact. It's a fact coming from her. It's truth. You're insane. And it just adds and builds, and he thinks he's crazy.
Yeah. It might be pretty unsettling for a kid to hear that from their parent. He's only 14.
And she's just, ranting and raving, probably. Just like, why do you never listen to me, damn it? You know what I mean? And
right. And for a religious parent, it's probably the alternative to saying you're a fucking asshole. Don't cuss at your kids. So you got to say something kind of mean, but, still reasonable.
You got to get their attention.
Yeah. So for her, that was an extreme thing to say, I think.
That's exactly what I thought.
Jonathan and Elizabeth had set up a home surveillance camera system, not only for security, but also to keep an eye on their son, Nathan. The cameras do seem pretty unusual, which later would prompt the police to wonder, why are the cameras inside the house?
The very first thing I thought when I read this, I was like, the call is coming from inside the house. Like the killer's inside.
Right. I mean, there's just this kind of like, if it's for security, you would be afraid of outsiders.
Why are
not
you,
like a nanny cam kind of situation where you're just watching your own kid.
Why are you afraid?
There's something going on there.
Or maybe you're just spying on him, just keeping tabs on him. But that is kind of weird when you walk in a house and there's cameras all inside like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
I know people with surveillance systems now that have cameras inside, but this is like 2010.
Right.
To me, that's kind of, I don't know, it seems different. Like people I know with cameras now, it's, surveillance security. But at this time, I didn't really know a lot of people with full-on surveillance systems like that.
Yeah, the way that technology has progressed, it's far more accessible nowadays, We've had a little like puppy cam kind of thing that you could just turn an old phone that you're not using into a puppy cam, it's that easy in 2019. In 2010, not so much.
He had to install
2005,
them. He had to go buy them. He had to go buy each individual unit, probably with a brain, probably like $3,000 camera system you can order online.
Yeah. It must have been expensive. It must have been time
installation.
Consuming.
Oh, yeah.
So this really speaks to the level of what they were trying to find or what they were trying to control as far as the behavior of their son, It seems that his parents were especially concerned that Nathan would do something wrong because he had actually been accused of something pretty heinous before. In 2010, Nathan was alleged to have molested a younger girl in the neighborhood. Police actually looked into the allegations and he was investigated thoroughly, but there were no charges filed. Everything was dropped.
You cannot find anything about that, too. And I know it's because they're minors. It's probably all sealed, but nothing but the allegations, and that's it. No charges filed. That's all you know.
And it's just really kind of a big question mark there of, was it because there was actually no real crime, or was it because they couldn't prove it, or did the person that it happened to no longer want to talk to the police? Maybe it was just too painful. They wanted to move on. We just don't know. So we just don't know what happened there, if it happened or not, or what the situation was. So it seems that these cameras weren't just to make sure that he was doing what he was asked, but also just to keep an eye on him in general, especially after these allegations that he attacked a girl. Even if the allegations were not substantiated, the parents must have felt like they needed to keep a closer eye on their son. since, of course, they put in the surveillance system. And if anything, even if they believed in their son, my thought process is, well, we can prove that he was home if someone says something happened or whatnot. Even in the most innocent way, best case scenario, they wanted to prove their son right, exonerate him or something.
And I read something also that their motivation was to make sure he was doing his chores. Like, make sure he did his laundry.
And that's very typical denial, I think, of just like, well, we don't want to say what we're really afraid of, so let's just say that we're watching him to make sure he does his chores.
Well, I think that's probably what they told him.
Oh, okay, yeah. But it might be what they told themselves.
I think it's kind of what everyone was told. But I have a feeling this kid wasn't doing his damn chores either. So I think it was everything, but they probably told him, hey, we just, you've been fucking up, you've been messing around, kid. We got to make sure, right?
Yeah.
But this was a bigger picture thing.
Or we want to make sure, like, you're not missing curfew. Like, there's probably a lot of reasons.
You'll be one place, you're another. We don't want you playing games for all these hours at a time either. So it's like maybe somebody's home, they can check the camera. Now, I don't know if you can check it remotely like that in like 2010, 2013, but I imagine somehow. And then they can make sure, double check, and then bust his ass later.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's still, I can't imagine living in a house where I'm like, oh, my parents are just watching me all day. Or having a kid where I'm like, I don't trust my kids so much so that I need to just watch them all day. That seems like, oh man, a prison,
I love surveillance video. I really do.
Don't we all? So, of course, like I said earlier, he got detention for being tardy multiple times. And from his parents, he was punished for getting that detention. So at home, in addition to being punished at school, he was put on restriction for 2 weeks. And his restriction was that he wasn't allowed to go to a school basketball tournament or play video games for 2 weeks.
What is he going to do?
One of the things I heard was that it was all electronics. Like TV, video games.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and even though video games were obviously the biggest concern for him, he was kind of cut off from any sort of electronic entertainment.
And he tripped hard on the basketball tournament. It wasn't like the video games came a little later. The thing right then was that night there was a tournament and he wanted to go. And they wouldn't let him go. And that is when he really got upset with them, was about the tournament.
But when you're a teenager, everything seems like the end of the world.
It's life or death.
My parents were pretty strict and I was grounded a lot for things that weren't bad at all. And every time it felt like my whole life had been pulled out from under me,
Absolutely.
So I get it. It is a big deal for him, But at the same time, he could easily avoid this. He could just not steal a credit card,
right?
On March 8th, 2013, his parents had also demanded that he complete the chores that he'd been ignoring for a while. So Nathan was in his room thinking about how if he didn't have parents, then he could do whatever he wanted. And he was kind of stuck in this fantasy land of what it would be like to not have parents. So he went into the spare room. He pried open this plastic gun safe that was locked and then took out a .22 caliber pistol. Making the decision of whether or not to kill his parents as revenge for taking his games took Nathan about 90 minutes.
This is another one where the parents have the gun put away, locked in a gun case. They've done almost everything that they could possibly do, right? They got cameras on the kid. What do you do?
Yeah. But even then, it just, I don't know. I definitely am not blaming the parents, but no. I just feel like, of course, we're looking at these things in hindsight, and it's like maybe the strict kind of control was one of the things that just made him feel so boxed in. What if this had been a situation where they'd sent him to a therapist, I think there were probably other ways to help him and see why is he acting out, get him to talk to someone and be like, okay, what happened with the credit card? Why are you being late to school? Because, you got there on time, so you're choosing to be late, there's definitely some sort of attention seeking that's going on. And I wish that at this point they would have gotten him therapy, you know?
No, yeah. I just mean like gun safety and you
Oh,
got
yeah.
kids in a house. Like what? I mean, there's certain things you're supposed to do, certain rules, even if, you're not going to be able to kill a burglar in the middle of the night if it's locked in a safe. I don't want to talk about that whole argument, but this is what you're supposed to do. This whole family did it. And, they've got rules, they got restrictions, there's consequences for your actions. Like, what else do you do? And I'm sure that's terrifying for parents that hear this, read this, look at this story. And that's part of why this one resonates.
And I think that is like the point is oftentimes these video game stories become kind of like this parental satanic panic. Like video games are kind of the replacement for Satan at this point.
I completely agree. Completely agree.
And it doesn't seem fair. It's just another situation where things are really blown out of proportion, The real thing is you just need to be there with your kids. You need to communicate with them. They need to know that you're involved in their life. And these parents are. And they're following, like you said, the gun safety rules and stuff. The only issue I have is just I think there's something, of course, underlying going on here. And I wish that his parents, if they weren't religious, maybe would have been more inclined to get him into therapy instead of just set more rules. Because that's kind of like the religious tactic,
Yeah, maybe.
So that would have been my hope. But of course, it's just so sad that it just didn't go in that direction. So, of course, he took that 90 minutes and he ultimately made that decision that he wanted to kill his parents.
Buckle up, because Metro is bringing you the best deal in wireless. Switch to Metro and get your choice of 2 awesome free phones from top brands like Samsung and LG with huge HD screens and tons of memory for all your pics and videos. So hurry into Metro and get your awesome free phones only at Metro. Plus sales tax and activation fee. Requires port in of eligible number not currently active on T-Mobile network or active on Metro in past 90 days. Limit 4 per account or household. Restrictions apply. See store for details and terms and conditions.
Introducing the Capital One Walmart Rewards Card. Earn unlimited 5% back on everything you buy at Walmart online. It's the perfect card for all your family's hints this holiday season. Like 5% back on the air fryer Grandpa told you about when he fell asleep in his chair.
Didn't fry anything.
Or 5% back on the laptop your sister had carolers sing to you.
2 turtle doves and a laptop for Carrie.
The Capital One Walmart Rewards Card. Earn unlimited rewards, including 5% back at Walmart online. What's in your wallet?
Terms and exclusions apply. Capital One N.A.
He sat in his room, he listened to music, and he waited for them to go to sleep while he was kind of thinking his plan over. The batteries ran out on his radio, so he decided to plug it in and let it charge. And at this point is when he just took the gun and walked out of his room. He went into his parents' bedroom and found them both finally sleeping. He aimed the gun at his father first and fired. Then he alternated between his parents, shooting them in the face and the head. His father was shot 3 times. He also shot his mother 3 times, once in the face, once through the finger, and once through her ear. Nathan ran out of the room and he started looking for more bullets to reload his gun. Then he heard his father yelling that his father also had a gun, basically warning the shooter not to come back in the bedroom.
What a scene. I mean, really.
This is just complete terror. I can't even believe this.
He's going to reload it.
Right. He's so fully committed to this plan. He's just going to get more bullets.
It's terrible.
Unbelievable. So when Nathan heard his father yelling, he got scared and he ran outside and threw the gun into their swimming pool. His father, Jonathan, had woken up in a pool of blood, and it was just running into his eyes so much that he had to constantly wipe his face off on the bed every few seconds. His first instinct was to grab the other gun that he had concealed under his mattress to stop the shooter from striking again. He was in extreme pain, but he knew that he had to get help for himself and his wife, Elizabeth, if they were going to make it. They were both in pretty bad condition. So he made his way to a phone and he called 911 for help. He told the operator that all he knew was that he had been shot by a shadowy figure. At the time, he believed that they had been victims of some sort of home invasion. That's one of the details that's just so unbelievable to me. He had no idea that his son had attacked him. When Nathan walked back into the room, Jonathan still didn't know that he was the shooter. So he stood up and he told his son to get behind him. He then held the gun aimed at the bedroom doorway, attempting to protect his family from the intruder that he believed was right outside the bedroom.
I have no words. I just have this visual of Nathan standing behind his dad's, who's just pouring blood, can't even see out his face. Get behind me, son. I'm going to protect you. I'm your father. And he's the one that did it. I can't even imagine. And like Nathan's brain right now, what the hell is going on in your head as your dad's like, I'm going to protect you, kid, and you're the one that did it? It's like, am I getting away with this? What is he thinking?
That's what I thought, is he must immediately just be like, oh, well, now that's my plan to get out of this.
This easy. Wow.
Yep.
It's like that.
It
Dad
may
did
have
it
been
for
his
me.
plan from the beginning to just say that it was an intruder. That may have been what he was going to do.
I feel like that was just luck.
Yeah.
That like they were asleep, so they did. I think he thought he would just shoot them to, they were asleep, just kill them. They weren't going to wake up. Like he was just going to kill them. Oh, somebody killed my parents.
And that's why he didn't have enough bullets with him. He thought that would be enough. And when they hadn't passed away, he had to go reload. That's crazy. And in that period of time, his dad is trying to piece together how this happened. And the only conclusion that makes sense would not be, oh, my son did this, but that there's an intruder.
And another interesting aspect, they have a gun in a locked case and all that. But then he's got this completely unsecured, loaded, firearm under his mattress.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting to me that Nathan didn't go grab that gun, or, maybe days before when he had gotten the other one or anything, or did he even know that one was there? He might have been just as shocked when his dad pulls a gun and really was, oh my God, somebody else has a gun. And just, just child brain. No, get rid of it.
Yeah, I don't think he knew it was
He's
there.
14.
He would have taken that one because it's way easier if he knew it was there.
I don't think he knew.
Yeah. But of course, like you said, it's just like, well, now that the whole scene is over, I'm just going to throw it in the swimming pool. If you want to go through with your plan, he's only 14. He doesn't know to like actually see it through,
Yeah.
It's just nuts. Rick Francis was the first police officer to arrive at the house. And he said that Nathan opened the front door for him and he was wearing nothing but his underwear.
Not boxers, tighty whities, little butt huggers.
Yeah.
Little boy underwear.
It really does. Of course, there's surveillance video and you can see he looks like a little boy.
He looks very, like uncapable. It's really strange video. The way he walks, he looks strange. It's like something out of like Ancient Aliens with the grays when he's walking, and it's like, I can't explain it. No one can see me, but I'm making all these weird gestures.
Just take it from me. Courtney looks a little bit nuts right now.
A little bit. He doesn't look like he's physically acting normally. The way he walks and it's very strange. If you're interested, look at the video. It'll all of a sudden go, oh, I get what she meant now.
A little bit like jerky or robotic,
yes.
Kind of. Yeah.
AI. Like Osimo. When Osimo, the little robot, walks, that's what it looks like, but with underwear on. Tidy whities. Osimo and some tidy whities. Make that meme. That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah, it's very strange.
Robotic
And,
is a great way to describe it.
yeah, he just goes to the front door and answers it like nothing, just
Nothing.
in his underwear. But I mean, at the same time, part
Somebody
of me is
killed
like,
my parents.
yeah, if you're sitting there in an actual situation where there really was an intruder, it really doesn't matter what you're wearing. You're just trying to survive. So I get how that's kind of normal.
He's in his house. He can be in his underwear.
Yeah, but when you actually see the surveillance video of what actually happened and how the events went down, then it's like, whoa, it's just very strange. So the officer actually recognized Nathan as one of the boys that played on a basketball team with one of the officer's sons. So he was familiar with him, which is just an added level. Nathan told Officer Francis that he had seen a man with a gun running out of the house. Just like Nathan's father, the officer didn't suspect Nathan at all at first. And I think it is so shocking, the idea that it would be him, that nobody believes that that would be what happened,
Well, this cop also knew him.
Yeah,
So
on top of that.
I think he benefit of the doubt immediately because no 14-year-old's going to kill their parents
No friend of my son.
until they start playing video games.
No.
Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Strike that from the record.
Strike that. Reverse it.
No, I mean, it really is such a just crazy, outlandish thing. None of the cops in this little town had seen anything like this, I'm sure. So the idea that it would be a home invasion, of course, is the first thought process. So first responders arrived shortly after, and miraculously, both of his parents survived, despite the fact that they had multiple head wounds. I mean, they were both shot in the head.
Multiple times. And his mom's like shot through the hand, and you can, that's putting her hand up to protect her.
Wounds.
Defensive wounds, thank you.
Yeah.
Like protection. I mean, there's multiple shots, multiple places. I'm quite impressed.
It's really,
we don't
really
hear this
miraculous.
a lot.
Yeah, I just am so grateful that they survived. It's just unbelievable. And honestly, everyone is, for such a tragic situation, they're extremely lucky, What Nathan didn't realize was that he had been captured on his parents' surveillance system, walking through the house in only his white underwear, holding the gun in his hand. This makes me wonder, did they not tell him that there was a surveillance system? Wouldn't he factor that into his plan?
I wondered that too. But that is why I have a feeling that he knew, he just probably forgot.
Yeah,
because
maybe.
they said, this is for your chores, to make sure you're doing your chores. And they weren't like pin cameras. They were cameras.
Yeah,
So
very visible. So they weren't trying to conceal
Maybe
them.
they told him they weren't always on.
Maybe. I just feel like there's got to be something. He's got to have thought that through. I know he's a child, but if it was a whole 90 minutes where he's like, should I do this? How do I do it? What do I do? Wouldn't he think, oh shit, there's cameras everywhere?
I don't know. I don't think that that's coming through 14-year-old Nathan's priorities.
Yeah, I guess just because it would be such a priority to me. You know what I mean? If I was in that position, I'd be like, yeah, of course, cameras. I'd be an idiot to forget there's cameras.
Totally.
But it just seems really strange to me that he didn't factor that in. But I don't know. He's 14.
And he didn't even try to hide from the camera in any way.
No.
Turn his back to the camera. No, he's just doesn't even care that they're there or remember.
Or even as a kid, put on a stupid disguise that everybody will know it's you, but try to do something.
Nothing.
He didn't even try.
He's in his underwear.
Which made me feel just so skeptical about whether he knew everything was there. I don't know. It just gives me pause. There's something weird about that. So police took Nathan to the station and they told him that they needed to just get a statement from him of what had happened. And at that point, once they had him in the station, they told him that they had him on video. During the interrogation process, Nathan admitted that for years he had been thinking about killing his parents. He claims that as far back as 8 years old, he wanted his parents dead.
That's young.
So young. That's very scary.
2nd grade, I think.
It's so scary to me that this has been going on in his brain for a while. Years and years of this. And then it just finally came to a head. So he says, of course, that when they grounded him and took his video games on March 8th, 2013, he finally snapped. And that was the point where he decided to put his plan into action. He stated that in the 90-minute period when he was just deciding whether or not to kill his parents, there was a voice in his head that told him if he did it, he would be able to do whatever he wanted.
That comes up again and again. He says the same phrase. If I didn't have parents, I could do whatever I wanted. If I didn't have authority, it's always so I can do whatever I want.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because this is so not 8-year-old, but like kid thinking.
Yeah, it's a very immature thought process.
I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
My parents are dead. I can do anything I want.
But yet again, and I'm in no way saying that it's the parents' fault, but I think that is the thought process of a kid that grows up in a strict environment or in a religious environment where he does feel like there's a lot of rules closing in that are maybe a little bit more, strict than his peers. So he looks at his other friends and maybe their parents aren't religious or their parents aren't as strict, I mean, again, speaking for myself from strict parents, everyone teased me about my curfew. My best friend still teases me about, like, she'll look at her clock and just be like, oh, it's almost 9. You got to be home.
That's awesome.
So, I mean, he may have been that kid that felt very singled out and very different because his parents set such extreme rules for him. Again, many people have that happen, like myself, and I would never do what he did. So, again, there's something within him, underlying factors that contribute to him reacting so violently. But I think that the thought process of wanting to be free says a lot about maybe the kind of rules that were laid out to him or the kind of punishments.
I would bet that he says a certain phrase a lot. And it goes like this. You're so controlling.
I can't hear a kid say that, to be honest.
Are you fucking out of your mind?
I would always hear like it's unfair. I feel like that's what kids always say. This is unfair.
But I'm telling you, they say it now.
Really? Yeah,
Yes.
I think nowadays.
I've heard it out of the mouths.
Out of the mouths of babes.
Oh, I don't know if they're babes, but I've heard it.
Yeah, I think I grew up in a time where we really didn't have that kind of verbiage.
I mean, I remember telling my mom that too, though. Like,
Really?
Mom, you're so controlling. But I also was a realist and was like, she's not controlling. I'm raising myself. Like, are you kidding me? You know what I mean? Like, I knew that if I wanted to do something, I could do it. Like, my parents would let me do whatever the hell I wanted, realistically.
Yeah.
I was a good kid, whatever. And anything I did do, I didn't get caught. There were no cameras. I made sure, Absolutely not happening. But my mom really wasn't that controlling. But once other people came through, you're so controlling. And I'm just like, that woman is not controlling, just so you know. Like, what are you talking about? But it's just interesting.
But I think that's probably the position he was
Yeah.
in, where he had outside influences showing him an example of something with a little bit more freedom. And he thought maybe that's what it would mean for him to not have parents, which is just not very attached to reality. I think that that's immature and just, I don't know, there's something off about that. But that's what it meant to him, I think, When police began asking him about the surveillance video, they asked him what he wanted to do when he actually pulled the gun's trigger. And he really replied quickly, saying, what a gun does, kill. So we know his intention was for them to not survive.
yeah, he was honest about that. That
Yeah.
he knew what he wanted to do when he got the gun. And when they were sleeping, he made a plan. Like, he was very forthcoming about that. And I think that says a lot about him too. Like, there's one thing, when you get caught and you lie, you try to lie, even though they have this kid on camera.
Right.
And
he already tried to lie before. But now they have the footage and he knows he can't lie.
And I think that there's, I don't know. I've always been that person too, just like, all right, here's what I was doing, like I'm caught. Okay, here it is. Here's what's going on. Even if you're not caught, sometimes you blow your own party. You're just like, just so you know, this is what's going on. But this kid just rats himself out. And, it's interesting because a lot of them, well, what happened was I was asleep at the time,
Right.
And he's just like, no, like, this is what I was going to do. Well, why did you take the gun? Well, you dumbass officer, I took the gun to kill him. I don't know. There's like something to be said for that in a weird way.
Yeah. Once he knows that the consequences are there, he really can't get out of it. He's very truthful. He just says everything.
Yeah.
Nathan recalls that he squeezed the trigger, and before he realized it, he was shooting his parents. It almost feels like he was dissociating or not really there.
The kid is showing up to school on time, but getting there late, right? He is playing video games for extra hours. He's doing all these things. Then he also pulls the trigger and doesn't even realize he's killing his parents. This to me sounds like very low impulse control, poor decision making. He's 14.
Yeah, he just doesn't get it.
No,
he
just
doesn't
doesn't
know what
get
he's
it.
doing.
No.
Nathan was released on bail to his grandparents' custody while he awaited trial, which is also, I know he's 14 and he's a minor, but that detail is kind of scary to me. He tried to kill 2 people, his own parents.
I would be worried if I was those grandparents.
Right?
He's on camera.
Wow. He was charged with 2 counts of attempted first-degree murder. Prosecutors asked that Nathan be tried as an adult, even though he was only 14 at the
Let's say you just bought a house. Bad news is, you're one step closer to becoming your parents. You'll proudly mow the lawn. Ask if anybody noticed you mowed the lawn. Tell people to stay off the lawn. Compare it to your neighbor's lawn. And complain about having to mow the lawn again. Good news is, it's easy to bundle home and auto through Progressive and save on your car insurance, which, of course, will go right into the lawn. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Discount not available in all states or situations. And now, an ad from Dad.
All right, save money on car insurance when you bundle home and auto with Progressive. Can I take these off? All right. What is this? This looks good. Wow, that's well made. Where did you get this? I'm talking to you with the hair. Yeah, where did you get this? It's good stuff. That's solid. That's not veneer. That's solid stuff.
Progressive can't save you from becoming your parents, but we can save you money when you bundle home and auto. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Discounts not available in all states or situations.
the time of the crime, meaning that if he were tried as an adult, he could receive up to 50 years in prison. Realistically, he was really looking at more like 15 to 20 years. So he decided to take a plea deal, and he pled guilty to 2 counts of first-degree assault with a deadly weapon. This plea agreement was partially to appease or accommodate the victims, his parents, but did not keep the case out of the juvenile court.
It's kind of like you can't really prosecute a case if the victims don't care, don't want it, aren't wanting this to happen to the perpetrator.
Right. The complainant has to keep pressing charges or whatnot. And even though they didn't want to do that, it was still such an extreme crime. There was no way for them to just make it go away.
Yeah, it's not one that you can just be like, well, they don't want to press charges. Close the book.
Yeah, it's too late for that. Too extreme for that. Judge John Hotchkiss sentenced Nathan to 15 and a half years in prison.
I personally don't really have a problem with this 15 and a half years.
Yeah, and I know there was a case a while back that I talked a little bit about juvenile sentencing, and it really has been shown to not be very beneficial. But that's usually for minor crimes. When you actually use a deadly weapon to try and kill both your parents, I think that 15 years seems pretty appropriate, And
then the caveat that it's recommended that upon and following his release, he receives a further 10 years of mental health evaluations. And I think personally that 10-year sentence of mental evaluations is more important than the 15 and a half he's going to serve as a punishment. That mental health thing to me says a lot. And I think it says a lot about the prosecutor, the judge, everybody that dealt with this case.
Yeah, absolutely. They
This kid had
knew.
he was telling you, I've been thinking this way. I've had trials and tribulations where I felt this way. I want to kill my parents.
Yeah, they had an understanding that he was suffering with something beyond what normal teens were going through.
And he came out with it, you know?
He was honest.
I'm caught and I'm remorseful.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure that in the juvenile court, they see kids all day long that either don't care or don't apologize or whatever. And he's sitting there saying, yeah, I definitely have some underlying issue that I don't understand. I need help. I feel really bad. I don't know what to do. And the judge is like, well, if you're in custody, you're going to get mental health care, especially in the juvenile. I mean, we know in the prison system, it's kind of fucked up, but I think he's more likely to be prioritized to get mental health care when they're saying this is a component of his crime. And then saying after his release, he's got to continue that, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
Nathan said that he finally understood that he had major depressive disorder. Then that had been causing many of the thoughts that he could not explain. His doctors say that he is still trying to understand what he did, and he shows no signs of having a personality disorder or any signs of antisocial or psychotic traits. So really, his underlying issue is truly depression. Reflecting on his treatment, Nathan said, "I'm not crazy or an animal or anything like that. It helps me understand what I did. There was anger and aggression, and I didn't understand why or how to deal with it. I was lost." He's repeatedly expressed remorse for the shooting. He says, "Knowing that you caused so much pain, not having the answer why was very difficult. I feel very guilty about it because how could I do such a thing and not know why?" At this point, Nathan really tries to make amends for what he did by telling his own story and using his life as a cautionary tale for other teens.
I think it was really important to him for people to know that he was not a born monster, that, you know, he has some issues and he made a bad decision, but he wants it to be very clear that he has a depressive disorder and, you know, depressive thoughts, but he is not inherently evil.
Right. He's just struggling and he's overcoming. He's learning about what's going on with him so he can treat it.
He was young.
Know?
He didn't know how to reach out. You know,
and he made a mistake.
Yeah.
A big mistake.
I was like, it's a big mistake, but, you know,
but at least
whatever. I mean,
he can't really move on unless he tries to forgive himself. So he has to really frame it that way, where he's like, I made a mistake and it's something I can overcome. It's something I can make up to my parents. It's something that I can use to better the world instead of just continuing to let it destroy me, you know?
Whatever he says, he still tried to kill his parents.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a problem.
But we always see people that are just like, no, I didn't do it.
Right?
For 80 years until they die, you know? So at the same time, like, I do appreciate that he's sitting there like, I did something terribly wrong. I wish I knew why. And I feel so horrible. I'm glad everyone's okay. And I just want to get better so that this doesn't happen. And I also want to spread the word so that it doesn't happen to anyone else, you know? So I do appreciate that more than so often when we hear that people just don't care and don't feel guilty.
I like that he goes and speaks to youth too.
Yeah. As recently as September 2017, Nathan participated in an event through the Washington Police Department, telling his story to local youth alongside other incarcerated juveniles. And he encouraged kids to stay out of trouble. He is actually due for release in 2028. And at that point, he'll be 29 years old.
But until he's 40, he's still going to get those medical evaluations too. So I think that's good. Right around the time midlife comes around, things might get a little weird in his brain. And, you know, we'll still have a couple evals left.
Yeah, and I think that it's going to be particularly hard for him to transition.
I do too.
For someone that went into the prison system as a child, he's 14, hasn't been out, and then spending so long inside, it's going to be hard for him to transition into being an adult. I don't know how, he's going to do it as far as finding work, as far as just being outside and doing life. So he's going to need that mental health care support.
At least he does these things where he gets contact with other people. He speaks to people. He can, have conversations and function. So he just needs to hone these skills once he's out. It's not like he's just been in solitary either. Like he's around other kids his age. I mean, I don't know where I'm going.
No, I know what you mean. He's
not just sitting in a room.
Right. There's a lot of cases, of course, where people get put into prison where it's just super max. He's definitely in a situation where he started out as a juvenile. He got convicted of assault, not murder or attempted murder. So it's going to be a little bit different for him than someone that has a little bit rougher prison sentence,
And the fact that his parents are still in his life and everything. He'll have a support system.
Yeah.
It'll be hard. I mean, it's going to be hard, obviously. But I feel better, oh God, about him doing well than I have about others.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity for him. Even in a terrible situation, there's a lot of opportunities that he has through the mental health care that they're providing. Hopefully. We'll keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah, cross them.
Both of Nathon's parents were diagnosed with PTSD after the shooting. Elizabeth recovered amazingly well, especially considering, again, she was shot 3 times in the head. She was not expected to walk or talk again, but Elizabeth has exceeded the doctor's expectations. She does have memory problems, and she's deaf in one ear, and part of her face is still numb. She says she'll never fully process that her son shot her, and she's glad that she didn't die because she wouldn't want Nathon to have to carry that.
That's such a mom. I mean, wow.
Yeah. Even after all that, she just wants the best for him.
Yes.
She wants him to be okay. Jonathan and Elizabeth say that they have forgiven their son Nathon completely. A BBC documentary was made about the case where they used this case as an example of why the U.S. should reconsider stricter gun control laws.
That whole special is just talking shit on the colonies about their gun control according to the British. It's pretty awesome. And every article you read is just, this is why you keep your guns, like everything I read. But then again, he's got this loose gun under the mattress and one locked, so...
Right.
It's just one of those.
Yeah. And there's so many times where people make it a gun control issue, and I get it. I don't know. But like I said from the very beginning, to me, this is just so much a mental health care issue. I just so desperately wish that he would have been put in therapy when he started acting out, Like, it's okay to go talk to someone about the fact that you're late for school and you're stealing a credit card for no reason. You don't need to.
Okay, now wait a second.
Okay.
You put that kid in therapy and he starts talking about these previous charges and stuff. And you're this family and you can do all kinds of guessing, right? And Christian school, all kinds of things that you want swept under the rug. And if you put that kid in therapy and he starts talking about it, they're mandated reporters.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it wasn't something related to that. And maybe the credit card stealing wasn't like a big enough thing for the kid to need therapy. Obviously, there's issues. So he should have been already, and he wasn't. So to me, this is not a family unit that's open to therapy. And you find that a lot, and that's okay. You don't have to be into therapy. But when your child has... I mean, if anyone said hey, maybe he thought about possibly, you put him in therapy. This kid had charges almost levied. Huh? So I don't know that these parents were so into therapy.
Yeah, I mean,
and he could have benefited.
It does make sense if they were really of that thought process where they just didn't want anything to come out.
They
Who
said
knows
he never got
what he
therapy
would
after
say, you know? if they put him in with a therapist, maybe he would talk about whatever he was accused of. We really don't know. And we don't know if the parents were thinking that way. I just always look at things like this and I'm like, well, he was really suffering, you know? I mean, he seemed to be pretty, like he said, he felt violent because of, he was like, I got to stop playing these video games. I feel violent. He was obviously having some sort of, you know, awful feelings. If he really felt like he was supposed to self-regulate in that way at 14, as a little dude that's probably not very in touch with his feelings, then to me that says he knew something was wrong. And I think his parents probably did too, you know? So I always just want to advocate for that kind of mental health treatment. But it does make sense. Who knows if they were afraid of that, or if they were just, you know, wasn't part of their thing because of their religion, or they didn't believe in it. A lot of people are against therapy, but that's why I'm so like rah-rah about therapy.
I wonder
you know?
if they made him do any sort of Christian counseling, or
maybe
school or, you know, peer group, youth group.
Yeah, maybe you have to join choir now because it keeps you busy for one extra night a week or something stupid.
Maybe,
you know?
maybe they, you know, we're going to pray about it.
But
God
really
works in mysterious ways, as we're told from another murderous child's parent.
But they really were those parents that were invested and involved in their kids' lives, you know? So it is just especially confusing when people are like, but they did everything right. The guns were locked. They were involved with their kids.
Not everything right.
But
but you can't do everything right.
You really can't. There's no way to be perfect. Nobody is perfect. As a child, as a parent, nobody is perfect. But I mean, that's one of the reasons why this turns into that sort of satanic panic where parents are just freaking out. Like, all the kids are trying to kill us. And it really isn't that way. It's just that these stories are particularly scary and tragic when they do happen, you know? So it's
Nathan
over.
Brooks. Oh my God, it's over. It's over.
That's our last gamer for letter G.
I got to go play some games now, everyone.
We got to get Cord into, you're the next gamer girl.
Okay. I don't know what to play. I'm excited though to try. I don't know.
So yeah, we'll be back next week with a new subject, new cases.
H.
Yeah.
H? Yes.
So in the meantime, if you want to join our Patreon, that is patreon.com/Murder Dictionary Podcast. So you can get some bonus episodes if you want to hear a little bit more content. So we want to thank our new patrons for this week, Samantha and Elliot.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. And like I said, we will be off a couple weeks in May, so don't be alarmed. We're coming back. We're just doing, both of us have a couple vacation thing planned. So
weddings,
spring break stuff,
fun
right?
things. Yes.
So, yeah, don't be scared. We're coming back.
We couldn't leave you if we tried.
In the meantime, if you want to see when our episodes are coming out, because we're going to be off a little bit, then definitely follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And yeah, if you haven't left a review, we would appreciate that too. And with all that said, I think we'll be out of here. Oh yeah, that's what I wanted to say. I'm going to try and get us to record a Patreon before we go on a break.
Yeah,
so at
I was
least
thinking
the people
that too.
that are on Patreon have something while we were gone.
Oh my gosh. I have ideas already.
I already have a couple of episodes written, like ready to record too.
Oh,
so
done.
we just need to like find the time to do it.
Perfect.
So we will definitely put something out for you. Whoever's on Patreon will get an episode even when we're gone. So we will see you next week with a new letter. And in the meantime, have a good one. Be nice to each other.
Be
We'll
safe.
see you next
Please
time.
drive safe.
Watch out for your kids.
Everybody, we love you. Be safe.
Bye.
So this person spent quite a bit of time in the commission of this monstrous act.
Hi, y'all. I'm Vincent, host of Gone Cold Podcast, Texas True Crime. Each week, we take a thorough look at lesser-known unsolved cases throughout the Lone Star State. Hear victims' stories as told by their loved ones, and expert insight from law enforcement and medical professionals.
You know, using a hatchet, that's an extremely violent and rageful type of act.
The truth is out there somewhere, and you can help us find it.
Before I die, I want to know who did it.
Please join us as we examine forgotten Texas cases. Subscribe and listen to Gone Cold Podcast, Texas True Crime on your favorite podcatcher.
There are monsters among us.
Hi, I'm Brianna.
And I'm Courtney.
From Crime Screen Podcast,
where every week we talk about movies, TV shows, and docuseries based on true crimes.
We discuss all the bingeable and unforgettable true crime that we're all watching on our screens at home.
Like Making a Murderer, Mommy Dead and Dearest, or Dear Zachary.
So if you're like us and have the problem of scaring off people at parties with serial killer facts and true crime stories,
or you just try to talk about whatever you watched and get horrified looks from coworkers and even your exasperated significant other,
then we are your new friends to discuss all the true crime with.
Follow Crime Screen Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter to stay updated.
And subscribe to Crime Screen on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, or wherever else you listen to podcasts.
And now, a thought from Geico Motorcycle.
It took 15 minutes to take a spirit animal quiz online.
Please be the cheetah. Please be the cheetah.
And learn your animal isn't the cheetah, but the far less appealing blobfish.
Oh, come on.
To add insult to injury, you could have used those 15 blobfish minutes to switch your motorcycle insurance to Geico.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on motorcycle insurance. And now, a thought from Geico Motorcycle.
It took 15 minutes to take a spirit animal quiz online.
Please be the cheetah. Please be the cheetah.
And learn your animal isn't the cheetah, but the far less appealing blobfish.
Oh, come on.
To add insult to injury, you could have used those 15 blobfish minutes to switch your motorcycle insurance to Geico.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on motorcycle insurance.